I spent the night in 35 degrees in northern New Hampshire to test out my Appalachian Trail sleeping gear. This includes my sleeping pad, my sleeping bag or quilt, my tent, and my pillow. So, while you watch this video, I want you to keep in mind what might be best for you on a cold fall evening in New Hampshire, or what I believe is going to replicate most of the spring in Georgia and North Carolina. And to get started, I'm Dave. I'm an aspiring Appalachian Trail Thru-Hiker and newbie carnivore. I bring to you a lot of my research and training on how to prepare for the Appalachian Trail, and hopefully this video can benefit you. Last weekend, I spent the night at the Waterville Valley Campground and then hiked the Tri-Pyramids up in northern New Hampshire the following day. So what worked with my sleep system, what didn't, and what are my impressions that I have after the single night that I spent in my new sleeping system, the one that I am going to be using on the Appalachian Trail coming this spring. I've included the links in the description below so that you can check out this gear after the video. The first item I have is my Durston X-Mid Pro 2. What are the pros of using the X-Mid Pro 2? It was roomy. I bought the two-person so that I could put my gear next to me, and I also have a wide sleeping pad, which I'll get to in a moment. It was easy to set up. The zippers were very smooth in order to open and close the tent, and the vents worked very easily. Because of the night, it was a very humid night, but I did not find that I had a lot of condensation the next morning, just maybe a very slight amount of dew inside the tent, but nothing really to be too concerned about. So what are the cons of this tent? I bent a stake when putting the tent up. I feel that that was partly due to the conditions of the campground where it was very hard and gravelly. So I don't feel that was entirely the fault of the tent stake. However, it just seemed too easy on my first attempt to put up this tent. I did have to readjust the poles frequently. I put them up, and I'm talking about my hiking poles. I put them up, and as I set up the tent, I had to continue to adjust them. In the defense of the tent, though, I have one of my poles that I have to screw it to tighten it. That is something that I will be changing out in future weeks. I'm going to be going back up to practice with my tent in about 3 weeks on our next overnight. The other part of the cons for the tent is that it took me, I'll consider, a long time to get this set up. The first time I set it up in one of my other videos, just out of the box, it took me about 6 minutes. This time it probably took me, I don't know, 3 to 5 minutes to get the initial pitch. Part of that was trying to get the tent stakes into the ground, and that was a little concerning for me. I want to improve on that and get better at doing that. So the overall impression for this tent, I like it for the roominess. I need to practice setting it up more, which I just said. I'm going to get new poles so that I can set it up pretty easily on both sides. One of the poles is better than the other because I had lost that first pole in when I stepped in a river and almost fell over and let go of that pole. So that went whisking down the river, so to speak. I am hiking that same trail in about 3 weeks, so there's a good chance I'm going to go looking for it so that I don't just leave a big metal pole out in the middle of the woods with just being wasteful and littering. So the next thing I want to talk about is my sleeping quilt. I got the Zenbivy 25 degree light quilt, lime green and black. And if you notice, all of this equipment is right behind me. I have the Durston X-Mid Pro 2. I have my Big Agnes Repeat SL, which is an insulated sleeping pad, which I'll talk about in a moment. And then I have my Zen Bivy over here, which I just mentioned, and I have my Outdoor Vitals sleeping pillow. So with the Zen Bivy, the pros, thinking of it from the standpoint of being 35 degrees out, my biggest concern was that my pad, my sleeping bag, or my sleeping quilt in this case, would not keep me warm enough. I slept with a hoodie, a t-shirt, some sweatpants, and some wool socks. I also had a fleece hat that I wore, and you can see that in the thumbnail of this video. But more so, I would be wearing a wool top, which I just forgot this trip, so that will be more replication of what's going to happen down the Appalachian Trail down in March. With those clothings, I found that the sleeping bag, it was easy to move around in. It kept me warm, and I only had a couple drafts when I rolled over and basically pulled the sleeping bag off of me, and that was not so bad. I did keep the convertible foot cinched down, and that helped because my feet were in there, and I didn't move around the base or the bottom of the quilt. So that was very helpful. The cons of this sleeping bag is I had a couple cold spots, like I had mentioned, and that was when I pulled up the quilt up over my head a couple times in the middle of the night, but it was very manageable. I really like this quilt. I'm very happy with it. The overall impressions that I need to put some straps around the quilt so that when I do flop side to side, which I do quite frequently, then I'll stay warm and not have any of those cold spots. And I will keep the bottom cinched in the early months because I just feel like that's just better for my feet. My feet don't move apart, they just basically stay together, and I move them up and down a little bit throughout the night when I toss and turn. And the quilt was plenty long enough, which was very good because I mean, I'm a short person, but I didn't want to pull it up over my head and then lose it off the bottom of my feet. The next thing I want to talk about is my sleeping pad. It is the Big Agnes Repeat SL insulated. It's rated at a 4.2 R value. It is up to 4.25 inches thick, which I think is excellent for the insulating factor of this sleeping pad. It is 25 by 72, so I did get the regular wide, and it's 72 inches, which is only 6 feet, but I'm 5'4". I found that this is wide enough to flop around on, and it's easy to adjust the firmness. The cons of this for me is I filled it up with the flex tail, and that is a very loud little apparatus, and it took too long. That was the cons. However, I did use the airbag to get the final fill. I found that I didn't have a great connection, so I'm going to have to look into that a little bit further in subsequent trips. The reason why I did the flex tail first is I might buy one, but I felt that it was really loud, and I didn't want to be too aggravating to other campers when I get to a shelter and have to set up my tent and fill up my bag. But the other thing is I have to figure out how to carry the bag that you use, the fill sack, I guess, in order to set up the pad. So I have to figure that out, and that's something that I'll do over time. My impressions is it was a good size for a side sleeper because I lay on my side, I roll on my back if I'm wide awake for a few moments, and then I'll try to lay on the other side. The good R value, the 4.2 R value, kept me warm, which was really nice. I also need to work on my, I'll call it my inflation management. What that means is in the middle of the night, I took out some of the air because I thought it was too firm. Then I took out a little bit more. And then at about 4 or 5 in the morning, I actually was laying on the pad and I took it out and I took too much air out. It just went too quick. And I ended up sleeping on my side with my hip, just my hip bone kind of touching the ground. And that got kind of cold, but it wasn't too bad. I was able to finish through the night. Onto my pillow, the Outdoor Vitals UL Stretch Pillow, which is the top up there. The pros of the Outdoor Vitals pillow is that it's very easy to inflate. It stayed inflated all night, and I felt that it was comfortable under my head. The curve on the pillow fits nicely over my shoulder, and I didn't feel like I was losing a lot of kind of missing the pillow because that stayed there. The problem that I have with the pillow is it's too short for a side sleeper like myself. And the other thing is it slid off the top of the sleeping bag. But to get back to the not being tall enough, when I lay on my side, there's just too much space here that needs to be taken up by the pillow. So I ended up putting a second pillow underneath it to raise that up and was able to sleep through the night. I'm going to be looking into a better side sleeper pillow. If you do know of one or what is the best one for somebody like myself that really needs this way up here, I actually was looking at the cube pillow. It's not a backpacking pillow. And I just wanted to try something like that to see if my neck stays in better alignment and it helps, and then I could try to replicate that with another pillow. So my overall impressions, it is too low for my side sleeping. It slid around too easily on the sleeping pad, and I need to find something taller for my side sleeping. But it is a good overall pillow for someone who sleeps on their back. All of this equipment can be found on links below in my description. Also, if you'd like to subscribe and like and share this video to others who might benefit. Also, leave a comment below to let me know kind of what you're sleeping with as far as your equipment, and how that might differ and how it might be better than what I'm using, so that I could look at that as well. I may not be changing things out, but I'm definitely going to change out that pillow because I need something that is going to be more appropriate for my side sleeping. Please check out my other videos, and as always, thanks and happy hiking.